Let me ask you something. Have you ever been lying in bed late at night, staring at your phone, wondering if giving your ex another chance might actually work this time? That little voice in your head whispers, maybe they've changed, maybe I've changed, maybe we deserve another shot. And then another voice jumps in and says, wait, am I about to make the same mistake twice? That tug of war inside you, it's real and it's exhausting. But here's the truth. Before you say yes to walking back into someone's arms, you need to ask yourself some tough, honest, soul-shaking questions. Because love is not just about missing someone, it's about making sure the future looks better than the past. Getting back with an ex isn't always wrong. Sometimes two people really do grow, learn, and come back stronger. But too often, we jump back in without asking the questions that protect our hearts. Don't just ask, do I miss them? Ask, does the future with them make sense now? Because your life, your love, your happiness, it's too valuable to gamble on the same story with the same ending. So if you're going to give someone a second chance, make sure it's not just a rerun. Make sure it's a brand new season with a better story and a happier ending. When you think about whether or not to get back with an ex, the very first thing you have to do is dig deep into the real reason the relationship ended in the first place. This isn't about surface level excuses like we just drifted apart or timing wasn't right. Those phrases are often ways we protect ourselves from feeling the sting of the truth. If you want to make a wise decision, you need to strip away the romantic fog and ask yourself with brutal honesty, what actually caused the breakup? Was it a matter of values clashing? Was it a pattern of neglect, where one person always gave more and the other always took? Was it a betrayal that cut too deep to heal? Or maybe it was the quieter kind of death, the slow fading of effort, communication, and appreciation. Whatever it was, if you cannot name it clearly, then you cannot fix it. Relationships don't end without reason. Even when love was real, something was broken in the way you both handled it. Maybe you fought constantly about small things, which really symbolized deeper differences you never addressed. Maybe one of you struggled with emotional unavailability, shutting down when the other needed closeness. Maybe one partner's vision for the future didn't align with the other's, and instead of tackling it together, you drifted in opposite directions. Until you can pinpoint those root causes, your heart may be tempted to create a fairy tale version of the past where everything was beautiful and only circumstances got in the way. But nostalgia is dangerous because it edits out the pain and highlights only the moments of passion and laughter. That makes you vulnerable to stepping right back into the same cycle without realizing it. Here's the truth. If the foundation of the relationship was shaky, time apart doesn't fix it. Time doesn't repair communication skills. Time doesn't rebuild trust. Time doesn't align mismatched values. Only conscious change does that. And if neither of you has actively worked on addressing those cracks, then history will repeat itself, no matter how much you miss each other. This is why the question of why did it end is so vital, because if the answer is still alive and present, then reconciliation is just pressing pause on the inevitable. Sometimes, people want to believe the breakup was just about timing. And yes, timing can play a role. Maybe one of you was too focused on career, too immature, or simply not ready for commitment. But even timing needs to be interrogated. Has the timing truly changed, or are you just hoping it has? If your ex still has the same priorities, the same mindset, and the same blind spots, then nothing about the equation is new. A different clock doesn't guarantee a different outcome. So before you rush back into familiar arms, sit with yourself and answer this clearly. Why did it end? Write it down if you have to. Be specific, be raw, and don't sugarcoat it. Because until you confront the real reason for the breakup, every reconciliation is just the beginning of another ending. The second question you have to face is this: what has actually changed since the breakup? This isn't about wishful thinking or the hope that simply being apart somehow rewired both of you into better versions of yourselves. It's about asking, in very practical terms, what's different now compared to the moment everything fell apart. If nothing is different, then you're not starting fresh. You're pressing rewind. You might have some new clothes, a new haircut, maybe even a new job. But if the deeper habits, mindsets, and behaviors are still the same, then your new relationship is really just the old one dressed up in a different outfit. Think about it. People often say we've had time to grow. But what did that growth actually look like? Did your ex learn to communicate instead of shutting down? Did you learn to set boundaries instead of letting resentment build up silently? Did either of you take real steps to heal wounds, to confront insecurities, to work on emotional maturity? Growth isn't measured by the number of months apart. It's measured by the lessons learned and the actions taken. Without that, you're still the same people who couldn't make it work before. You also need to consider whether your ex has demonstrated change in a way that's visible and consistent. Words are easy, promises are cheap, and nostalgia makes you want to believe them. But people don't transform just because they say, "I'm different now." Change shows up in patterns. It shows up in accountability. It shows up when someone who used to run away from problems now faces them with honesty. It shows up when someone who used to avoid commitment now puts effort into showing up for you. If all you have are words and no real evidence, then you're building hope on sand. And don't forget to turn the mirror on yourself. You may have longed for them to change, but have you? Because no matter how much you might blame your ex for what happened, relationships are never one-sided. Maybe you needed to grow in patience, in communication, in self-worth. Maybe you had a pattern of settling for less than you deserved, or maybe you didn't know how to express your needs in a way that could actually be heard. If you don't acknowledge your own growth, or lack of it, then reconciliation will feel different for a few weeks, maybe a few months, but soon the old dynamic will resurface. So the real question is not, do I miss them? But are they truly capable of giving me the relationship I need now? And am I capable of showing up differently than before? Change isn't about promises, it's about proof. And if neither of you can show that proof, then all you're really doing is stepping into the same story with the same ending. When you're thinking about going back to someone from your past, the question of trust is one you cannot skip over. Trust is the invisible thread that holds a relationship together, and once that thread is frayed or broken, everything else, love, passion, even commitment, starts to unravel. You can miss someone terribly. You can crave their presence and feel the pull of your history with them. But if deep down you don't feel safe in their hands, then being with them again will feel like living with constant background noise. A quiet anxiety that never lets you fully relax. That's not love, that's survival. Think about what led to the loss of trust in the first place. Was it lies, betrayal, or emotional neglect? Or maybe it wasn't a dramatic event, but a slow erosion of reliability. Those times they said they'd be there and weren't. The moments you needed support and felt invisible instead. Trust doesn't always break with one big explosion. Sometimes it dies in small, repeated disappointments. Now the question becomes, has that been repaired? Not just apologized for, not just swept under the rug with "let's move forward," but truly addressed and rebuilt. Because forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. You can forgive someone and still not trust them, and unless both are present, reconciliation becomes an exhausting cycle of doubt. Trust also works in both directions. It's not only about whether you can trust them, but also whether they can trust you. If you contributed to the breach, have you owned up to it? Have you shown through action that you've changed? Or are you both carrying around the ghosts of broken promises, waiting for the other person to prove themselves before letting your guard down? A relationship cannot thrive in an atmosphere of suspicion. It's like trying to breathe with no oxygen. Eventually, you choke. Here's where many people get stuck. They convince themselves that love alone is enough to fix trust. But love is not proof of reliability. You can love someone deeply and still doubt their words. You can feel butterflies in your stomach and still feel the need to check their phone when they're not looking. And the moment you live in that state, where reassurance requires constant checking, questioning, or second guessing, you're not in a healthy relationship. You're in a constant emotional tug-of war, and that wears you down faster than loneliness ever could. So ask yourself honestly, when you picture being back with this person, do you feel calm or do you feel tense? Do you imagine leaning into them fully, or do you imagine keeping one eye open, waiting for history to repeat itself? Trust isn't built on time passing or words spoken. It's built on consistency, honesty, and reliability. If you don't have that, then no matter how much you miss them, what you're stepping back into is not love. It's fear disguised as comfort. The hardest question to ask yourself before going back to an ex is whether you truly want them for who they are, or whether you just fear the emptiness of being alone. This is where so many people trip up, because loneliness is powerful, and it plays tricks on the mind. When you're sitting at home, scrolling through old photos, remembering the inside jokes and the way they held you when the world felt heavy, it's easy to confuse longing with love. But missing someone doesn't always mean you need them back. Sometimes it just means you're craving comfort, familiarity, and the illusion of safety. The problem is, if you confuse that craving for genuine desire, you risk walking right back into a situation that doesn't truly serve you. It's important to separate emotional hunger from actual compatibility. Think about it. Are you reaching out to them because you can clearly see a healthier future together, or because the silence of being single feels unbearable? Being alone forces you to face yourself, to sit with your own thoughts, to fill your own time, and that can feel uncomfortable. But loneliness isn't a reason to recycle a relationship that wasn't working. Choosing someone because you don't want to face your own company is like eating junk food when you're starving. It satisfies the immediate craving but leaves you emptier in the long run. Ask yourself this: if you were in a place where you felt confident, fulfilled, and truly happy with your life, would you still want this person back? If the answer is no, then what you're chasing isn't love, it's escape. You're trying to escape the feeling of being unwanted or unseen, and your ex becomes the easy solution because they already know you. They've already been there. But easy isn't the same as right. Settling for the comfort of familiarity is the fastest way to trap yourself in cycles that keep you small, repeating the same patterns over and over without growth. Another layer to consider is whether you're mistaking attachment for love. Attachment says, I can't let go because it feels scary. Love says, I choose you because you bring value, joy, and growth into my life. One keeps you clinging out of fear. The other inspires you to step forward out of desire. If you strip away the fear of being alone and look at this person for who they are, not who they were in your memory, do you genuinely want to build a life with them, or do you just want to fill a void? The reality is, being alone isn't the worst thing. Being with someone who isn't truly right for you, someone who keeps you in cycles of hurt, doubt, or stagnation, that's far worse. At least loneliness has the potential to push you toward growth, toward building self-worth, toward discovering what you really deserve. But going back to someone just because you're scared of the silence will only delay that growth and keep you tied to a version of yourself that's afraid to stand alone. When we talk about the possibility of going back to an ex, what we're really talking about is not just the person, but the lessons we've carried forward from that relationship. The past has a way of tugging at us with selective memory, highlighting the laughs, the kisses, the nights where everything felt easy and alive. But love isn't sustained by highlights. It's sustained by the entire reel, including the parts that hurt, the parts that broke us, and the parts that forced us to walk away in the first place. To truly make a different choice now, you have to honor the truth of the past, not just the beauty of it. Otherwise, you're stepping into a love story that has already told you how it ends. Revisiting an old relationship can feel tempting because it offers familiarity in a world full of uncertainty. You already know them, they already know you, and that can feel like skipping steps in the exhausting process of finding love again. But the danger lies in mistaking familiarity for safety. A familiar hand can still hurt you, and a familiar voice can still silence your needs. What matters isn't whether you can pick up where you left off, it's whether you can both write a new chapter that doesn't repeat the mistakes of the last one. Without growth, without real change, you're not starting over. You're just starting again and again and again. It's also worth remembering that reconciliation is not just about love, it's about alignment. Two people can love each other deeply, but still want very different lives. They can feel pulled toward each other, yet still lack the tools to build something lasting. If trust has not been rebuilt, if values remain unaligned, if loneliness is driving your decision more than clarity, then getting back together will only magnify those cracks. Love should bring peace, not constant doubt. It should feel like a partnership, not a battle to prove who's changed or who deserves forgiveness. Choosing to go back without asking the right questions is like building a house on sand. It may stand for a while, but eventually the foundation will give way. In the end, the question isn't just do I want them back, but do I want the version of myself that existed in that relationship, because who you are now deserves to be honored, not diminished. Your heart deserves a love that feels secure, respectful, and forward, moving, not one built on fear, nostalgia, or old wounds. If you choose to go back, let it be because both of you have grown, both of you have healed, and both of you are ready to create something stronger than what was lost. But if those things aren't true, then the most loving choice you can make is to keep walking forward, knowing that love, when it's right, will never require you to compromise your peace just to avoid being alone. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this message today. I truly appreciate your presence, your energy, and the openness you brought with you. Remember, your heart deserves clarity, and your life deserves love that helps you grow. Never settle for a version of love that keeps you small when you are capable of something so much greater. If you found value in this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep building this journey together. Your support means the world, and it's what inspires me to keep creating content that speaks to your heart and empowers your choices. Take these questions with you, reflect on them honestly, and never be afraid to choose yourself, because the most powerful decision you can make is the one that honors your worth. Thank you once again for being here. Until next time, take care of your heart, trust yourself, and remember, you deserve nothing less than a love that feels right. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.